Madam Martha Karua, karibu, now your 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Sophia. I was born and brought up in Kirinyaga, and I want to thank my parents, who are still alive, thank God, for instilling the values of honesty, hard work, community, and respect, values that hold good to this day. In this debate and in the audience, I have my family, my 2 children, Wawira and Edward, my grandchildren, 4 of them, my brothers and sisters, some of them, others are online. I represent the Azimio hope for this country. Azimio, together with Kenyans of goodwill, is out to rescue this country from the stranglehold of corruption cartels. This country can't breathe. We cannot get the services that people do require because monies intended for public service are going into the pockets of corruption cartels, who then become instant millionaires with huge bank balances. We intend to help this country, to help citizens get their country back, and all the resources of this country will be utilized for the best interest of the entire nation, not a select few. I am here to discuss those issues, and I am glad that my opponent is also talking of issues, which is what we have been calling for in our campaign. I'm able, ready, and willing.
Karua, the same question. What kind of a deputy president will you be?
I'll be a deputy president who is respectful of the Constitution, of the people of Kenya, of my principle, and a person who will obey the rule of law and do the best to support my captain to deliver for this country. The oath of office dictates that the interests of the public are paramount in everything a government does. I will help my captain to stick to the rule of law, to ensure that what is in the Constitution is fulfilled. Our Constitution dictates that we adopt a social market economy where social justice is in the forefront. That is why Article 46, not 47, talks of socio-economic rights. You will notice that in our manifesto, we are talking about giving social support to those who cannot have any income, who do not at the moment have any income. And that's one way of fulfilling the promise of the Constitution and ensuring that Kenyans live in dignity, especially those who cannot afford the basics of life. I will therefore serve with honesty, and my track record speaks of that I have been a consistent public servant who does her work in the manner prescribed by the law, with honesty, with dedication. I will devote 100% to the people of Kenya.
Honorable Karua, as I come to you, at the beginning of the presidency now, as we have it in 2013, it would have been unimaginable that would be today witnessing the kind of fallout we are between the president and his deputy. So for you, how do you execute differently and ensure we do not see this kind of bad blood drawn out?
I think even when people have differences, because it is not possible for human beings to always think alike. That's why even our Constitution acknowledges diversity of opinion. It is imperative that all debates or disagreements or arguments on issues happen in-house, and what is brought to the public must be the result, the agreement on the positions. And I think I'm very well prepared, and I'll continue to pray and address my mind that, one, the overall leader is the president. I am the principal assistant. With that in mind, that I'm a delegate of the president and can be required to do any work to support the presidency and the administration, I'll be ready, and I am ready. I have served as a cabinet minister for 6.5 years. A cabinet minister is a delegate of the president. A deputy president is a first among equals within cabinet in being a delegate of the president. It's not a different position. We will be able to moderate any differences of opinion on any issues and to focus on serving Kenyans and to be respectful to Kenyans. Arguing in public, calling each other names in public is not only a disgrace, it's also not respecting Kenyans who elected and put us in office.
Yeah.
So I will be very conscious. And I've been commenting on the current situation, which does not commend itself to anyone.
Would you then, perhaps going by the experience this country has gone through, in terms of the architecture of the Constitution, should we have a rethink, perhaps from an elective deputy president to an appointive one, so that if things do not work out for the sake of country, then the president has that latitude? 2 minutes.
Nothing wrong with the architecture of the Constitution, something wrong with our behavior. It is not that we need to amend to prescribe the relationship between the president and a deputy president. It is that we need to change our behavior, differ with respect, maintain deference for people who are above us, that even when you differ, the way you address them is in a way that tomorrow you can be able to once again sit and work together. And when it comes to my opponent saying that their manifesto or their plan was discussed by Kenyans, I want to remind Kenyans, Azimio was a product of a robust discussion, way ahead of anything our opponents have done. And my captain went around the country and he got Kenyans to express themselves, and that's how Azimio was born. That's how the agenda, the manifesto, was born. Consultative process as prescribed by the Constitution. We intend to continue with consultations, even in governance, because public participation is deeply embedded in the Constitution, which my principal and I fought so hard to put in place. For those who do not understand principle, they can never envisage resigning. But I do think it is dishonest to continue to take public salary, to take the privilege and all that goes with office when you know you can no longer deliver, either because of differences or because of other things. I respectively withdrew myself by resignation from Mwai Kibaki's government in a respectful manner, no name calling, such that we were able to continue when we meet to sit down and talk. I don't think the same can be said of Mr. Gashagua's principle. Entertaining disagreement outside government and publicly is disruptive. No wonder the government in which Mr. Gashagua's principle serves is unable to fight corruption because it's pulling in two different directions. That is why we have a paralysis today.
Honorable Martha Karua, the question on just what happens if you disagree with your principle and if your principles should have the right to essentially let you go, should we relook at that?
I think the way the Constitution is, you disagree in-house, you resolve it. I do not think there is anything that cannot be resolved unless if it's something that is unconstitutional that is being demanded of me. I will remember the oath, my oath under the Constitution, that there are things, if they are outrightly illegal, I certainly cannot be party to. But happily, my principle is a believer in the rule of law and constitutionalism. And he is also a man who views everything through the lens of social justice. That is why we have a dignity package for those who cannot afford meals on their table. That is why we have Babacare to rescue Kenyans from lack of access to medical services. If you look at our agenda, you will see that this is an agenda that talks of the socio-economic rights of Kenyans, an inclusive agenda that has every Kenyan, whether poor or rich, as demanded by our Constitution. So I cannot stand here and honestly say that we shall have the same position on all things. That never happened, not even in Mwai Kibaki's government. But in 6.5 years which I served, I never publicly berated the government that I served or the president that I served. I just said my hands were tied and I withdrew. My principle differed with Mwai Kibaki, but all he said to the public is that I was not consulted. How they went back room and resolved, we never know. We only know they came out with a unanimous decision. That is what people who have respect for the public do. People who have respect for their offices do. But holding an office while not serving is dishonesty.
Leadership and integrity, fitness to hold office. I will begin with you, Honorable Karua. And in 2013, when you vied for presidency, you said, "I do not share any values with the Prime Minister, then Raila Odinga, nor do I share his politics. Both he and the late Kibaki have been unable to root out corruption within their ranks." What has changed now that you're deputizing him?
Indeed, the coalition government was unable to root out corruption in the second half. And I said so publicly many times. Raila Odinga was a presidential candidate in 2013. I, too, was a presidential candidate. My statement that they were unable to fight corruption did not indicate they are the ones individually perpetuating corruption. It meant there was corruption in government which they failed to act on. I believe that a combined ticket of Raila Odinga, Martha Karua will do the best to fight corruption. I resigned on principle because one of the things I felt let down on is the failure to tackle issues of graft. Raila was a prime minister, a co-principal, the late President Kibaki was the first among equals as the president. Whatever dynamics, I do not know of. But it is recalled that shortly after that election, I worked with Raila. Na Kenya and I were friends of NASA, not NASA, of CORD. And we worked together until 2017, when I decided to run for governor and supported Jubilee. We have been able to work together, have a history of working together in our 30 years of being in active politics, and I know that his policies align with mine. I did mention that we both view our actions through the lens of social justice, and that is what has drawn me to work with him.
Just a quick 1 minute, I will add you on your time that when you said I do not share any values, you've addressed the issue of corruption and graft, but you do not share any values and even agree on his brand of politics. What do you say to that? Because values, this is...
As of that time, I felt I did not share anything with him. And remember, we were candidates. There is no way you will praise the other candidate. But I can assure you that it is not because I thought he personally was responsible of any wrongdoing, nor did I feel that President Kibaki was personally responsible. But there were rogues within government they failed to act on. And I felt my hands were tied in the performance of my duties. And therefore, as I campaigned for myself, I actually was saying, look, you've been unable to fight corruption, just like the Jubilee administration under President Uhuru Kenyatta and Dr. William Ruto. And they are still in government together up to now. And we saw Dr. Ruto attending cabinet a week ago. They've been unable to fight corruption. You can't hold one side of government and say the good one is mine and the bad one belongs to the other person. That's doublespeak.
Is Martha Karua, the honorable member, is she the deputy Is she the deputy? Is she the running mate of Raila Odinga, the project, or is she the running mate of Uhuru Kenyatta, the project master?
Okay.
She's who's running mate?
Okay, Martha Karua is in the
It
building.
is true that both I and my captains are projects, but projects of the people of Kenya, whom my captain consulted, and by public demand, he was called upon to take leadership. At a time our country desperately needs leadership. He has offered leadership, and I was competitively selected. And like my friend who was handpicked, I faced an interviewing panel, and also through demands of Kenyans and many endorsements, I was selected. Kenyans know I'm competent, and I believe I'm competent for this job. I'm ready, able, and willing. I have consistently shown independence of mind, irrespective of whom I'm dealing with. I will handle this job independently and with commitment to Kenyans. And I know my principal also, who has been a teacher of politics to Mr. Gashagua's principal.
All right, Martha Karua, just a direct question to respond to Honorable Gachagua. What is the role of President Uhuru Kenyatta in Azimio?
The role of President Kenyatta, he is the chairman of the council, but my captain is the chairman, overall chairman of Azimio. Jubilee is just one out of the 26 political parties. I sit in the council as well, and President Kenyatta does not make decisions alone.
Will he have a role? Will he have a role after he finishes his term?
Sorry?
Will President Kenyatta have a role after he finishes his term?
His party will have a role. And if he continues to be, if he doesn't give his position in the council to any other member of his party, it would be a peripheral role as a member of the party. The incoming administration will be a Raila Odinga Azimio presidency. Just like the current Jubilee government, although Uhuru was a deputy president in the government of Mwai Kibaki, it was not a continuation of the Mwai Kibaki administration. It was an Uhuru Jubilee administration. Anybody who understands government would know that.
And Martha Karua has already been assigned that role. He was on record that she is the one he has put there deliberately to protect his interests and that of his family.
All right, Martha Karua.
It is important to be truthful in this debate. President Kenyatta has not publicly or privately assigned me any role. I'm sure he knows that he cannot assign any role to a minister in an administration he does not have. The person who has assigned me a role as deputy and has declared the intention to appoint me as Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, apart from being Deputy President, is the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. My colleagues and his captains' beef with the President should not make them use this forum or use us as candidates to fight the President. We represent the aspirations of Kenyans. And yes, Kenya needs rescue, but rescue from corruption cartels, which my colleague may know more about.
Martha Karua.
I was really hoping that my colleague would explain to us how an individual finds 5 billion shillings in their accounts. But I hope one day Kenyans will be able to know money that was transferred to his accounts in the last 10 years of the Jubilee administration. But that's for him to account. I believe as leaders, we have to be accountable. That is why there's declaration of wealth, so that as you enter office, people can know how much you are worth, and as you exit, or in the middle, they can monitor and see how you are progressing, whether it is from your salary, and if it's from business, it has to be a business that can be ascertained. I think we really need to come clean, because if you cannot account for your wealth, you cannot be a good steward of the money of the people of Kenya.
So this is a question to both of you. You've brought up the subject of wealth declaration.
Yeah.
What are you worth, Honorable Karua?
I think about just about 150 million, and that is because the 56 million I had declared in 2013 has appreciated because of the inflation. I haven't had any new properties, but I'm a person many may not understand. I'm not thirsty for land. I'm not thirsty for worldly goods. I'm happy to have a house I call home. I'm happy to have a house in my father's land. I do not look for property. Not everybody is hungry to amass. I'm hungry to do something to help my country to transform the lives of the people.
Right.
So if you're looking for Martha Karua to be a billionaire, no, I am not hungry for billions.
Okay, Honorable Karua, you have 2 minutes.
An Azimio government will have a policy position that graft cases and all serious crime should be investigated and prosecuted within a given time, within 6 months to be specific, so that people like my colleague here, Mr. Gachagua, anybody charged with crime against the people, within 6 months, we ought to know whether they are guilty or not, so that people don't seek public office when having baggage of cases. And if I may remind Mr. Gachagua, the cases, because I've been following the newspaper reports, relate to Kwale County, Bungoma County, and Nyeri County. And the period when the offenses are said to have been committed is between 2013 and 2020. So it is important, even from a personal position, that a person gets cleared and that you do not instruct advocates to delay the cases, because what we are having in our courts is really a circus, where one is charged, you are holding public office, you continue holding public office, elections come, and now we have seen new language in the courts that to allow them to campaign, the case is further delayed. Kenyans need to know, and even the person accused needs to know, so that they do not give excuses. We have repeatedly said with my captain that whether it's my daughter, my blood relative, or a member of the opposing camp, the law must apply equally to all. And everybody must have a swift chance to clear their name in court or for the court to declare them guilty.
What the Honorable Karua is saying, that we need a law to hasten cases, is not the solution.
Honorable
The
Gachagua,
solution is to take cases to court when you have evidence.
Martha Karua, you have a minute to rebut.
I just want to let Mr. Gachagua know that I do not have an iota of public land anywhere, in Kirinyaga or anywhere. I do not own land in South Gariama. I am glad he knows they are just allegations. And I challenged the current administration that is there, and I'm not in power in Kirinyaga, that if there is truth to that allegation, then they must swiftly take me to court and recover. So once you challenge those making the allegation and they don't do anything about it, then the matter is closed. The only land I own in Kenya is the house I live in Nairobi, and the house up-country, which is on my father's land, and he has included my name in the title. I said I'm not land hungry, and I'm not hungry for material wealth. Those who are hungry may never understand that. Relating to BAT, it was money paid to my campaign secretariat by a donor, not paid to my personal account. Later, it transpired that it was money from a company. The matter has been investigated in UK, and the file has been closed. I also challenged the DPP of the government Gachagua's principal serve in 2016 to investigate and prosecute me.
Right,
so those matters are allegations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Martha Karua, the same question. How do you finance your campaign?
Through public donations in cash and kind. We had a fundraiser just the other Friday, but the donations are a continuous process. The Azimio campaign secretariat is keeping tab. My personal campaign organization, the New Dawn Trust, is also keeping tab of all donations coming to me. and it is the organization that had received the money you asked earlier for BAT. I do not mix campaign money with my own funds because you have to maintain integrity even with donations. We have choppers donated. There is a chopper I personally use, which is a donation from a kind corporate friend. And we have many such donations. And I want to remind Kenyans, my captain, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, has had choppers in his campaign even when he was out of government. Like the 2007, I think they flashed more choppers than the PNU side I was in that could have. He is a man known for his capability to mobilize resources, both human and financial, for campaign. And I'm very lucky to be his running mate.
Okay. Honorable Karua, just to build on that, all corruption scandals, Eurobond, Kimarer, Afia House, KEMSA, do find a dotted line into politics. As you respond to this question, how does Azimio and yourself going to deal with these questions that we have to deal with now?
May I begin there by saying that Azimio government is very clear on what it will do. Both my captain and I have repeatedly said there will be no sacred cows. Anybody involved in corruption will face the law, irrespective of who they are. As for campaigning with public resources, that's a fabrication. What I know is that every presidential candidate is entitled to security. So there will be security apparatus, whether it is the Deputy President's campaign or the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. We mobilize our own meetings, using our candidates, using everybody. Anybody who attends, they attend on their own volition. Yes, there are some cabinet secretaries who have attended our meetings, but they have sometimes attended as a by the way. When they attend deliberately, it's of their own volition, and it's not because we need them to mobilize. Let nobody forget that there is no political operator who can mobilize more than the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. I also personally do not need help to mobilize. I've been in this game for 30 years. When Mr. Gachagua was still a DO, I was in politics.
Martha Karua, you have 2 minutes.
I want to help Mr. Gachagua. State capture is the repurposing of the state to serve individuals rather than public good. And corruption cartels in this country, whoever they are, have strangled the country. I opened by saying Kenya can't breathe. Our health services, their money is taken. The money for agriculture, for fertilizer subsidies, money for building dams such as Kimwerel, Arol, Galana Kularu, which was supposed to help Kenya feed itself. That is what state capture is about, that every penny intended for the public, a majority of it is ending up in people's pockets. This is not about families or individuals. It's cartels, and cartels are organized people, gangs of criminals, because what they are doing is committing crime. And you don't need a commission to punish crime. You just need serious law enforcement. And if you find roadblocks, that cases are taking too long, then Parliament can be used to do its work, to consider proposals from the government, to pass laws that fast-track such cases. We all know that election petition cases take 6 months. Why can't corruption cases similarly take such a period? That is the debate that must go to the National Assembly. Mr. Gachagua serves in the National Assembly. I have not heard him talk about corruption except when defending his own position in the case he's involved in. In contrast, I'm out of Parliament. I've been vocal, whether it's KEMSA, whether it's any other corruption. And I've also been vocal in upholding the rule of law and reminded my brother, President Kenyatta, that he cannot serve beyond his term, a position he holds at this moment, that he is going home.
So, Honorable Karua, do you agree then that there's state capture in Kenya? And secondly, what do you make of their proposal to form a commission of inquiry into the same in Kenya if elected?
That just expresses their reluctance to fight corruption. In fact, Mr. Gashagua's principle is captured on tape in an interview in this country, saying that corruption, he doesn't think corruption can stop a nation from developing. With what money will a nation develop, invest, or even provide services if the corruption cartels are taking 2 billion shillings a day, which translates to stealing 40 shillings from every person? In an average household of 6 people, that's 240 shillings. 2 packets of unga at the discounted price of 100. Kenyans need to understand. They're hungry, they're without medical service, without fees for their children, and without free education, because corruption cartels are strangling the nation. That's why we can't breathe. Once we understand that, then we will vote for people with a track record, like Azimio, people with the will to fight corruption, people who are prepared to confront the monster and to apply the law evenly, irrespective of who is mentioned.
So do you believe we have state capture in Kenya?
There is state capture, yes, by corruption cartels, organized criminal gangs who plunder our resources daily. 2 billion shillings a day, which is authenticated by the Auditor General, translates to 765 billion shillings. The amount of money we need for the social support is just 144 billion. The rest can be used to pay debt, to do other things. We intend to seal all those loopholes so that Kenyans can have advantage of their resources.
Honorable Karua, the names of every corruption scandal, Kimwarer, Kamsa, Eurobond, they're all government officials.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
That is where the state capture is coming. If you look at them, it's not about families, it's about individuals who choose. Because I keep saying, no mother has baptized their children the name corruption. It's a behavior an individual deliberately chooses. And state capture can even become a tool during elections, where empty promises are given to entice Kenyans to further surrender their sovereignty to corruption cartels. I'm urging Kenyans to look at the track record of each of the formations that are seeking the presidency of this country. I am confident that a reasonable look at the candidates present, as Kenyans will commend themselves to vote for Azimio. And Azimio will do the jobs, not because we are perfect, but because we have the best track record, and we do try and have tried before and done good work for Kenyans.
All right.
All right. Honorable Karua, do you agree that lack of independence in these institutions is the problem Kenyans are facing in the criminal justice system?
The Constitution gives all these institutions independence. And independence and autonomy should not be confused with accountability. Parliament, which is independent, has to be accountable to the people of Kenya. The executive has to be accountable to the people of Kenya. The judiciary has to be accountable to the people of Kenya. Institutions have decisional independence, that a judge will be independent in making that decision of guilty or not guilty, that the director of public prosecutions will be independent in deciding to charge, to prosecute or not to prosecute. It doesn't mean that they fail to account to the people of Kenya. And that is most of our leaders are failing to do, be accountable to the people of Kenya. You go to office to do your own business, where you will find that quite a number of people who are parliamentarians are trading with the counties, are trading with the government. So who is the watchdog of the people? The law forbids it. Conflict of interest. Going to get county work from a county government when you are a member of parliament. Who is going to be the watchdog?
A quick follow-up on that.
Yeah.
Because the proposal on the table in Azimio is that if you are elected into office, then you'd also double up as Minister for Justice. Yeah. Wouldn't that go then to entrench that kind of feeling of interference from the executive? Because these are independent institutions, yes, but even if it's facilitating and good workflow, there's the NCAJ that handles all of the issues around that chain of criminal justice. So wouldn't that role, in essence, be seen as interference as well?
Not at all. The Minister of Justice doesn't prosecute. This is a coordinating ministry, coordinating the